Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. I welcome you all in Pakistan Studies Compulsory course. I am Bakhtavar Ali. Today we are actually starting a new chapter and which is related with the state integrity and solidarity. And that is also actually defining the state supremacy in the context of politics when we actually discuss this concept under the institutional supremacy. So that chapter is including another topic which is civil military relation, and we will discuss in this lecture its part first. So in this lecture we will talk about the introduction, what is the concept of military, and how civil and military as an institution are connecting with each other, and how they are working for the development of the state. Then we will talk about a brief historical perspective in the context of a civil military relation. Then we will discuss the overdeveloped state apparatus and how this apparatus is leaving impact on the civil military relation. Then we will talk about the ambivalent criteria for judging management. Then we will discuss military as a defender of state, and then we will move toward the powerful role of intelligence agencies in the context of state development and eliminating the terrorist element from the state. Then, in the end of the lecture, we will actually conclude by discussing the military quota in civil government jobs and its impact upon the state. So, let's look on the concept of civil military relationship by introducing this concept. The shape of military which we are actually observing nowadays is quite different from the ancient time. If we actually present the comparative analysis, this military as an institution was initiated in the period of colonial dynasty, when we can say that before partition actually this institution was started, and gradually this institution was evolved and worked for the betterment of the state. But initially this institution was not equipped, and that institution was not actually utilizing the manpower in a proper sense, and also unable to get the proper funds for the development purposes. But this institution actually accepted the social influence, political influence, and military, in broader context, military influence of Royal Military of the East India Company. How? Because the army persons and the individuals also played their best part in the World War II, and under the flagship of East India Company, they actually also participated in the in different military based trainings and royal military training, as well as they were also having some common parties where they were used to meet with different people, so that they can groom themselves, and in the future they can play their part in the development of state apparatus, as well as the general masses of the society. So democracy and significance of military on the course of social and political change is the main purpose in the context of civil military relation. But both institutions are actually different in the context of their appearance, in the context of their institutional structure and institutionalization and centralization. So both institutions are actually separate, but we can end this discussion by saying that both institutions, through mutual cooperation and collaboration, can play their best in the development of the state. So, in another concept in the context of civil military relation is the evolution of army and involvement of army in civilian matters. Although military was getting inspiration from the royal military when the subcontinent was not divided, Actually, I'm talking about before 1947. So this institution was highly developed on moral grounds, on discipline, dedication, commitment, and devotion. But but this institution was also playing their part while advising the civilian institution. But in the other hand, we can agreed upon a single agenda, which is that both institutions, civilian or military, were separate, and they were actually working as a colleague in the same institution or in the same state. But colonial period was actually focusing upon the elimination of civilian authority from the politics. So military regime was working for the betterment of the society only in the context of defense. So military was not actually involved in any type of political activities or any social activities. They were actually working for the defense of the state. But on the other hand, we can also observe one thing, that civilian officials were subordinate of military in London. They were actually working together, and they were actually also providing a platform to both institutions for the cooperation, for the mixing, so that they can contribute in a better way. But we can find another change in the context of military and the attitude of civilian authority, when we found that after the death of Qaid Azam, there was no proper leadership. But we can give the name of Mr. Liaquat Ali Khan, because he was the person who was very close to Mr. Jinnah, and he was working in the freedom movement, and he was actively participating in different activities organized by the All India Muslim League. So he was the only person who can govern the state after the death of Qaid Azam, and he actually did this task in a better way. But his assassination was made in 1951, and around about 1951 or 1952, he was dead. But his death also left a huge vacuum in the context of leadership. That is why we can say that there was no proper leadership who can impose decision, who can establish some decisions or made some policies for the development. So that was a vacuum which cannot be fulfilled in the context of leadership. And on other hand, we can also face another pressure in the shape of political organization, when we were unable to find any political army, although there any political organization actually, although there was a political organization which we can say that in 1954 provincial election there was a political party, but that political party was actually working only in the eastern wing of the state. But All Indian Muslim League was not actually proper organized after the death of both leaders. So you can say that political class and the political regime was actually in disturbance mode, and they were unable to establish any sort of political platform or execute any political policies. So that is why there were chances that in somehow this organization, or sorry, this institution, who is internally and externally strong and well equipped and dedicated. Why? Because they were under the supremacy of East India Company, and they had been provided different platforms for the learning purposes. So there were the chances that this institution will intervene in political affairs. But we can also observe another important element in the context of military, in the when we are discussing their strength, and when we are discussing their organization. It was the military who played an active role in the safety and security of those governmental convoys during the riots at the time of partition, because there was nobody who can protect them, who can provide them safe passage towards the border area, or towards any area where there were no riots. So we can say that a political class actually went into the decline when there was no proper political regime, when there was no proper political leadership and no organization in this institution. But on the other hand, the army as an institution was strong, so there are chances that we can find the traces, we can find the foundation which leads towards the intervention of military into the civilian matters. So in the result we can actually say that due to these backgrounds and due to these issues, then in 1956 we can find the first military person who was involved in civilian matters, and that was General Ayub Khan. He actually imposed the first martial law in the state, and he although he entered in the politics by saying that I will definitely hold the elections and I will work for the civilian supremacy, but in practice he was unable to do this thing, and he imposed the first martial law, which was from 1958 to 1964. And at that time, in this phase, you can say you can never trace a single political or civilian authority in the state. So although his time period had been considered as a golden, but his all policies and decisions were in the favor of Western wing. And other military involvement we can trace from the history is in the shape of Mr. General Yahya Khan, who also entered into the political affairs, and he also want to work for the development of the state his without his institution. But he actually also tried to strengthen the role of military in politics. So after his tenure in 1972, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto tried to maintain the supremacy of civilian authority and civilian control over the administration by removing some officials of the armed forces, but that was nothing, and that was not a major contribution in this context. And military persons continued their effort by eliminating some political members, by also removing the political parties from the politics of the Republic of Pakistan. But this process continued when we again find another military involvement in the shape of General Ziaul in 1979 1977, who again promised to general masses of the Pakistan that he will introduce the political system and he will also work for the betterment of the state by using the political platform, but he was unable to do so. Zia's assassination and impact of army on the political services was very deep, and actually introduced many policies. He assassinated, or you can say that he actually used the trial-based murder of Mr. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. So that was also another major vacuum in the context of civilian supremacy, and that also decreased the increase the distance between the civilian and political and military regime. So after the assassination of General Ziaul, Nawaz Sharif and Benazir Bhutto played musical chair game in the post of prime minister, but that was a huge period when they were facing five different chief of army staff. The first one was Mr. Asif Nawaz, then Wahid Kakar, then General Jahangir Karamat, and at the end Mr. General Pervez Musharraf. But first two were pulling strings to make politicians dance to their tones. But Musharraf put an end to musical chairs game by taking over on 12th October 1999. And we can say that it was the it was the will of political ruling class who actually provided the platform to military class to intervene in the political affairs. Then coming towards the overdeveloped state apparatus, where we can say that how civilian and military relations can be maintained. We can say that strengthening the military bureaucracy based upon their social and political development, we can say that they were gradually developing, they were acquiring some platforms, they were acquiring some institutional and institutional based operators, and they were also acquiring different modes for the sake of development, and they were depending upon state authorities to progress them themselves. Another important factor in this context is the colonial period and the military rule, where we can say that the colonial period strengthened this institution. Colonial period also focused upon the on depending upon each other, and the concept of nation and concept of millet. Then they as an institution, military actually strong themselves, and they strong their institution by introducing different reforms, by introducing different policies, values, and code of conduct, so that in future, if they are required to work within the state for the supremacy of politics, for the supremacy of governing body, then they might must be ready for that purpose. So they were actually focusing upon they were actually witnessing the developing mode of the state. So they use this thing for their own institutionalization, their structural reforms, and their own development. Then military training and culture is also important in this context, when we are saying that civil and military relations will be developed. Actually, the people who are associated with the military time, and they are associated with this institution, they are actually strong on the basis of their decisions, on the basis of their nerves, on the basis of their commitment and dedication, and the time management and the planning. So these are the basic elements which can strengthen this institution. And that another important factor in this context is the relationing between the different officers who are actually working for the betterment of institution and the state. Then ambivalent criteria for judging management is also important thing in the context of civil military relation. When there is no war in the state, and state is enjoying the time of peace, then there are chances that when state officials are providing platform to military officials, that they can intervene and they can advise the people, and they can guide them regarding different matters of the state. So in this context, we can say that the state officials are providing or indulging them with the and indulging them within the state affairs, within the civilian matters. So achievement of civilian officers versus achievement of a whole army unit is another important factor in this context. Why? Because the you can observe that military persons or the people who are associated with this institution are very organized, and they are actually focusing upon the some code of conduct or patterns or methodologies, so that they can achieve the specific task or goals. But on the other context, when you are finding this when you are observing the working style of civilian government or civilian officials, then you are unable to observe another organization or any other style in the context of implementing or imposing the decision. Why? Because the one individual at a time is involved in different tasks and deeds, and they are holding different ministries. So the whole unit work is actually less than the achievement of a civilian person who is involved in different activities. Then coming towards the role of military as a defender of state, because state cannot be established or developed by eliminating the those factors who are actually threat to the existence of state. And military in this context can play the role of defender, and military is actually only responsible for the stability, harmony, and progress of the state. So when military is involved in these to eliminate these factors, and military is involved to eliminate the racial superiority or ethnic based conflicts or any pressure groups who are actually presenting the negative image of the state in front of global community, then military definitely adopt those policies which are in the favor of state, and these policies will be rigid, and these policies will be strong enough to tackle the issues. So when you are facing this thing, then definitely you can discuss another important element in the context of military is that they would be rigid in the imposition of their principles, and they would be involved in those activities which are in the favor of state. So involvement in civilian administration, as they consider themselves as the last resort, is another important thing in the context of military as a defender of state. Why? Because they they are aware about one thing, that state is depending upon them, individuals are depending upon them, leadership are depending upon them. So that is why they somehow use this thing for the sake of their own benefit, for the sake of fulfillment of their own task. And then other important factor in the context of civil military relation is the powerful role of intelligence agencies. Agencies are actually the wing of military, and they are secretly working for the development of state, for the progress of the state. So there are chances that the people who are associated with this platform are highly professionals, and they are very committed to their task, and they are very actually equipped in their in the achievement of their goals. So the purpose of agencies is to maintain the internal and external stability, but they somehow focus upon the internal security when they feel that the people who are living within the territories of the state are also threat to the state's existence. Then definitely they will use their means to eradicate such elements. Then coming towards another important thing in the context of agencies, we can say that agencies are also involved in civilian matters, and they are using different they are using political wings for their own purposes, and somehow political wings are providing them the opportunity to get benefited from them. So in when we observe this thing, and when we observe this phase of intelligence, then we can say that the such people or such community members are actually out of control, and they may play a role in controlling different institutions including army. Then coming towards the military quota in civil government jobs, this thing can be described in two different contexts. When you are talking about the competitive exam, or on the other hand, you are talking about, or you are discussing about the political services of the state, or political institutions of the state. When you are talking about the competitive exam, then you can find the proper quota system when an individual who is shifting himself from the post of captain towards the major, then he had been provided a chance to appear in the competitive exam, but he has to he has to pass only the interview, and then definitely he will be allocated into major portions of the civil government. And they had been allocated the different part they had been allocated the key posts. And this thing is actually creating the complex among the civilian community members and the general masses. And in if we discuss military quota in the civil government job in the shape of administrative structure, then we can find another important element in this context, that there are some administrative institution, there are some administrative posts where we can find the different military officials who are actually working and who are actually utilizing these institutions for their own purposes, or in broader context you can say that they are using these institutions for the development of their state. Then coming towards the political institution, there are many institutions like political departments, where the people who are providing advice belong to the military person, belong to the military institution. They also actually a part of different projects which are actually civilian projects or engineering based project, but they are actually under the leadership of military. That is actually creating the resentment among the civilian community members. Why? Because they are considering this thing, that they are actually not able to acquire their fundamental rights. So that is why the military quota in civilian government job is also playing its part to increase the distance between the army and civilian government. Then coming towards another important thing in the context of civilian and military relation is that when you consider this thing, that people who are associated with civilian and military relationship, then definitely you must focus upon agenda which is that when the people who belong to this community, when the people who are associated with the political regime and military regime, they must focus upon their institutional strengthening, state strengthening, but they must eliminate the factor that they are associated with the concept of personal interest. Why? Because personal interest is the element which can leads towards the demotivation, which can leads towards the destruction of state internally and externally. But both civilian and military persons or institution must focus upon that actually exposure or that grooming which had been observed during the colonial period. Because the colonial period, when state had been considered as one unit, and both institution, military and civil, were independently working for the betterment of state. So when they were working for the betterment of state, and now they are not associated with the concept of state, which is actually which is actually turning them into different part, then we can say that military and civilian government both are not actually playing their part to achieve some goal. So although this approach had been made in the gradual process, but we can change the narrative by improving the concept in the civilian attitude, and also motivating the military regime to work their own, to strengthen their institution in a different phase. And they must eliminate this thing that they are the defender of state, and their offshoots, whether their offshoots belong to military intelligence bureau, or ISI, or any other institution, they must focus upon the state stability by using or by staying in their own parameters. But those parameters must not be contradicted with the state constitution, and the state constitution and the supremacy of state must not be challenged. So when you are accepting this thing, and when you are admiring the fact that state is an institution, state is a governing body which is actually depending upon both institution, the first one is political institution, the second one is military institution, then they must focus upon this concept that both are actually necessary for the development and progress of the state. So the people who are associated with those different institutions equally contribute in the development of the state, so that the state can be developed. And in the long term, we can also say that military as an institution and civil government as an institution can both collectively working for the betterment of state. Military is presenting, or sorry, military is actually defending the state, and internally political institution is introducing those policies which are focusing upon the fundamental rights, which are focusing upon the secondary rights of the individual, which is focusing upon the concluding rights of individual. And on that account, we can also consider one thing, that When we admire this fact, then definitely we are agreed upon this agenda that some people or these political institutions are actually acquiring and achieving the support of general masses. And when general masses are providing support and general masses are focusing upon they are actually committed on this thing that this political regime is working for their betterment, then definitely they will also be able to understand the importance of the political institution beside the military institution. So that is the overview and a brief introduction of civil military relation, the phase one. If you have any question or query, you can ask me through the WhatsApp or Google Classroom. So till next lecture, take good care of yourself. Thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.